Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Great marriage until my wife dies. Realized infidelity after she died. Swept it under the rug for the kids' sake. And now it's back to haunt me. My significant other, an extrovert, and I, an introvert, started dating in our mid-20s. We both had our one-night stands and cheating partners. 3 years later, we were married. We were best friends that had a lot of fun and couldn't keep our hands off each other. DNA lived in 4 countries and half the states. On my significant other's 34th birthday, I gave her a ring box with a note asking if she would quit her birth control so we could have a baby together. She jumped into my arms and kissed me until I lost my balance and fell to the floor. The happiest I'd ever seen her. She took me into the bedroom, past the bed, into the bedroom where we flushed her remaining pills. Over the next 5 years, we lost 3 pregnancies. This hurt us both deeply. We talked and decided to adopt. The process is long, but in our early 40s, we watched our daughter, M, be born. The sparkle was back in her eye. The next 8 years were wonderful. My significant other was the kindest, most empathetic mother I'd ever seen. All of our friends told me how lucky I was. At 50, my significant other asked me to get a vasectomy to lessen the chance of another unwanted pregnancy. I had a bad case of the flu the week of my snip, and I had to cancel. My significant other got the same flu from me the next week. She wouldn't let me take her to the hospital, but I finally took her to the emergency room where she had a stroke that lapsed into a coma. 6 horrible days later, she passed away. Both Em and myself were devastated. It took almost a year before she would sleep in her own bed. She said she was afraid I'd leave too. Soon, I received 2 credit card statements in her name. We always had common finances. The balance for both cards was just shy of $14,000. Mostly in cash advances. I sent for all of the back statements. This got me thinking about the last year. Sex life went from normal down to once every week or 2, along with a couple other details we won't go into. She also had a few new foreplay tricks she'd never used before. We also went from talking over everything at dinner to barely talking by the end of the year, then to the point she would avoid talking to me at all. All we had was a landline with 2 phones. She would get mysterious late calls, and the caller ID register was always cleared. Completely not normal. She went from a girls' night every week or 2 to girls' night twice a week by the end of the year. Her dress for girls' night also went from jeans and a sweater to being dolled up by the end of the year. She would even get her hair done sometimes. Then I got a total confirmation of her affair in the mail again. I was blissfully ignorant and enjoyed the one-on-one time with M. Playtime, bath time, chasing her until she would go to bed, then story time and kiss her on the forehead goodnight. After a couple years of grieving and obsessing, my company offered me a job far away, and I jumped at it. I pretty much just swept everything under the rug and we left. Fast forward 10 years, and I started having these very vivid dreams that I remembered for days. My significant other would be dressed beautifully, dancing and kissing her affair partner, then would go to their room, strip in front of me, and throw their clothes on me like I was a cuck. Then, screw in front of me and laugh at my misery. I finally went to an individual counselor who told me that I never got closure on my significant other's affair. I, 64, just retired, and M, 22, wants to move back to our hometown. I am hesitant because I still don't know who the affair partner is, and I don't want to be nice to the SOB that screwed my wife. I would be surprised if the affair partner was outside our circle of friends. I also don't want M looking up to someone who screwed her mother. Should I ask significant other's best friend who the affair partner is? She would know. Should I dig all this back up? I'm obsessing again. I thought all this was behind me. Please let me know. Let's get some comments. Sweet but Psycho X thinks, I don't know how you haven't asked sooner. That would eat me alive. Would it possibly be better to find out before you decide to move, in case you find out once you've already moved and can't handle living there? Moving house is a big change that can trigger all sorts of emotions. Maybe finding out who it was might also help with closure. Do what you feel is right for you. The OP's response, I am trying to move in that area of the country, within a couple of 100 miles away from the hometown. When I moved out of the house my wife and I shared for 20 years, it would take me hours to fill a box with me crying over each thing of hers I found. So I know all about moving emotions. In my dreams, not knowing the face of the man is what drives me crazy, among other details. Simone Tem for One says, I think opening a closet that's stuffed should be left closed. Some people call it pain digging. Focus on M and all she and you need. Chasing and thinking about the unknown steals time and opportunity. If you find out, there'll be more questions than answers. This is the beginning of you chasing to her tail. Best friend doesn't want to answer endless questions. Trust me, you'll always have one more question. Let this consume you, and it will. The OP responds, I couldn't agree more. I had planned on never opening the closet. The closet opened on its own a few months ago. I only want one question answered. Who? After my significant other passed, I withdrew from our circle of friends, 24 plus people, because the odds were favorable that the affair partner was in this group. It didn't bother me then because M needed me more than ever at the time. Besides, more people in the circle than the best friend had to know what was going on and never told me. Simone Tempra 1 responds again, I understand. My only thing is once you know who, why him? How often? And a slew of endless questions. Please don't confront him. You don't want M to hear or witness that. Besides, you have your life to live and show M what a great dad you are. If you feel to move away, that's your choice. Wish you well. Let's move on to the next story. Wife of 7 years cheated on me. My wife and I have been together for 10 years. We were married at age 23. We have a 3-year-old daughter. She has been struggling with depression for about 5 years, taking various courses of different medications and attempting therapy in many different formats. I've been working at home lately, not actually from the pandemic anymore, but to offer support for childcare. My wife normally stays at home with our daughter and doesn't work otherwise. She had expressed her desires for me to work at home as much as I can, because her meds make it hard for her to wake up early when our daughter does. I've been doing this routine to help her for the better part of 6 months, attempting to do both my full-time job and care for and entertain my daughter simultaneously. Her depression is usually very debilitating. She doesn't like to go out and socialize, doesn't really go out to do anything on her own, and when she needs to interact with the world outside, say to see a doctor or fill a prescription, she has me do it for her. All of this is a long backstory for when I think the infidelity started. One day out of the blue, she told me she was going to see her OBGYN for a checkup, and then thought it would be nice to get a massage afterwards. Normally my response to something like this is very positive. Her wanting to do things on her own is encouraging to me. It suggests that she's growing out of her depression and perhaps her meds are helping. Thinking nothing of it, I said, great, that sounds awesome. I'll stay at home and watch our daughter, no problem. The day of her appointment, she was gone for a long time, like 6.5 hours. When I asked her how it went, I got very vague answers, and she didn't know how much her massage cost. Thinking nothing of it, I went on about my day. A couple days later, I was leafing through my credit card statement and noticed a charge for an online herpes care clinic that supplies medications in the mail. I was livid and instantly jumped to conclusions. What had she done? Not wanting to do anything rash, I just ran out of the house and proceeded to get properly drunk at the bar. I came home and confronted her. She told me that the birth control patches she started on gave her skin bumps, and that upon Googling it, thought it might be herpes, so she sought a solution. But not to worry, the bumps are gone, and she doesn't have herpes. I sobered up the next day and thought, okay, give her the benefit of the doubt. I acted rashly. She let the whole situation fade away suspiciously quickly the next day. I thought this was really weird, given how she usually likes to wallow in her misery instead of moving on. A few weeks go by. The meds she ordered arrived in the mail. She doesn't open them, and thinks I didn't notice their arrival. Then, I start seeing huge charges on my credit card start to happen. $300 on yoga clothes, $500 on Victoria's Secret, $400 on clothing, $200 on Sephora. All atypical and out of the blue. All these packages arrive, and I notice I never see what's inside. The items just disappear into our house. One day, I notice in our dresser some red lingerie I've never seen before. Pulling it out of the drawer, I discover there are 5 more sets of lingerie I've never seen before. At this point, I'm highly suspicious of her. She always asks for long alone time and hardly talks to me, but is generally happier than she usually is. One day, she asked me if I think it's a good idea to sign up for fitness classes now that they're opening up again, knowing that exercise is really good for managing her depression. I excitedly encourage her to do it. She signs up and books a class for 2:15 p.m. that same day. The studio is a 30-minute walk from our house. 2 p.m. comes around and I ask her why she hasn't left yet and that she's going to be late. She says that she can be late and that it doesn't take that long to walk there. This same pattern of workout classes repeats several times. each time leaving impossible amounts of time to travel, leaving the house with a full face of makeup and coming home not sweaty or tired. Then this week I got fed up. She leaves for her class, and I use Find My iPhone on her iPad. She goes to the park just outside our building and stays stationary. Another time, she goes to a nearby hotel. I start to get extremely angry, and the world starts to spin. I go to find her in the park. I find her sitting on a bench, talking with some guy. I take out my phone and make a couple videos and pictures. Then I went home and opened up her iPad again. This time, I noticed she wrote a password-protected note, but hadn't locked it since last using it. Inside, she writes a letter to a guy, almost like a breakup letter. She describes how they're both sharing and confiding in each other and struggles in their marriages. However, since sleeping with each other, he stopped providing comfort to her, and that she feels like they need to stop the relationship. I've since confronted her. She admits what she did was wrong. She admits she was talking to someone she met online for support, but keeps telling me in text messages she never slept with anyone. I don't believe her. Should I? I feel like she's angling for a non-contested divorce, or to make it hard to prove adultery. I'm still trying to speak to a lawyer, but it all feels very hard to believe that she wasn't being physical. And even if she wasn't, I'm not sure it changes how I feel about it. Anyway, I've been drinking a lot to try and cope, trying to speak with friends and explain what happened, trying to avoid downtime because when the world slows down, the sadness hits hard. Divorce feels so daunting. Custody is unbearable to think about. Our finances are completely integrated, and I have no idea how we're going to untangle our lives. Time for those comments. Sampa to NYC says, "Do not fall for your wife's attempt at gaslighting. She slept with that guy. She probably doesn't know that you can read her messages, so she is trying to minimize the extent of the affair. Protect your advantage. Save any incriminating messages and do not reveal that you have access to her messages and texts. Stop drinking. That is not going to help at all. Consult with a lawyer to discuss your options. Lean into trusted family and friends for support. Perhaps seek individual counseling for yourself to handle the roller coaster of emotions you are experiencing. Go to the gym. Keep yourself busy and press on. Sorry this has happened to you. Good luck to you." Our last comment comes from Taicho Jasard. "Talk to a lawyer. Do what they say. Start separating finances. File for divorce. In discovery, ask for the herpes test results. Get tested for full STI panel. She is not that depressed to lie and sneak around your back. After you are divorced, be the best you and dad you can be. This is now about you and your daughter's health now physically and mentally. She has slept with the affair partner. She took advantage of you at home and caring for your child while she developed an emotional affair and a physical affair. No respect for you or what you have done or provided. Sorry."